So Andy was a real great natural leader, even though he wasn't formally a producer on the show and formally a writer. He was a tremendous contributor.
Ron Howard and Andy Griffith shared something special, more than just a working relationship, but a deep bond that lasted decades. Fans of The Andy Griffith Show have long wondered what really went on behind the scenes and what Howard, who played young Opie Taylor, truly thought about his time with Griffith. While rumors and speculation have floated around for years, Ron Howard has largely kept quiet about the details of their relationship, until now. So what does Ron Howard really have to say after all these years? Stay tuned, you won't want to miss it. Howard's early life and the start of his career. Ron Howard's journey to Hollywood greatness started long before he even knew what acting was. Born on March 1, 1954 in Duncan, Oklahoma, Ronald William Howard came into the world with show business already in his blood. His parents, Rance and Jean Howard, were both actors, and they weren't just in the industry. They lived and breathed it. From an early age, it was clear that young Ron was going to follow in their footsteps. Ron's father, Rance Howard, was an actor and director with a deep love for storytelling. His mother, Jean Spiegel Howard, was also an actress with a strong presence on stage and screen. Unlike many kids, Ron didn't just grow up watching TV. He grew up around people who made it. His parents didn't pressure him into acting, but they naturally introduced him to the world of entertainment. When Ron was just 2 years old, his family moved from Oklahoma to Hollywood, California. It was a big move, but one that made perfect sense for a family looking to make it in the industry. While most toddlers were learning how to talk and play, Ron was already spending time on sets, watching his parents work. By the time he was 4 years old, it became clear that he had a natural talent for performing. His parents, recognizing his potential, gave him opportunities to explore acting in a fun and pressure-free way. Little did they know their son was about to become one of the most recognizable child actors of his time. At the age of 5, Ron Howard landed his first credited film role in The Journey, 1959, a drama starring Yul Brynner and Deborah Kerr. It was a small role, but it was enough to get his foot in the door. Unlike many child actors who struggle with stage fright or need constant direction, Ron had an instinctive understanding of acting. The industry took notice of this talented young boy with bright red hair and an easygoing charm. Before long, he was appearing in small roles on television, showing up in shows like Playhouse 90 and The Twilight Zone. But his biggest break was just around the corner. In 1960, at just 6 years old, Ron Howard auditioned for a new television show called The Andy Griffith Show. The series, created as a wholesome small-town comedy, needed a young actor to play Opie Taylor, the son of Sheriff Andy Taylor, played by Andy Griffith. Ron's audition was effortless. He had a natural chemistry with Andy Griffith, and he perfectly fit the image of an innocent, lovable small-town boy. When he got the part, he probably didn't realize it would change his life forever. The Andy Griffith Show premiered on October 3, 1960, and quickly became a huge hit. Audiences fell in love with the simple charm of Mayberry, the fictional small town where the show was set. But one of the biggest highlights of the series was the father-son relationship between Andy and Opie. Andy Griffith, from small-town boy to rising star. Andy Griffith's journey to becoming a beloved TV icon started in a small town in North Carolina, long before he ever stepped in front of a camera. His story is one of humble beginnings, natural talent, and a love for storytelling that shaped his future. Andy Samuel Griffith was born on June 1, 1926, in Mount Airy, North Carolina, a town that would later become famous as the inspiration for Mayberry in The Andy Griffith Show. But in those early years, Mount Airy wasn't a television dreamland. It was a simple, working-class town, and Andy's family struggled to make ends meet. His parents, Carl and Geneva Griffith, didn't have much when Andy was born. In fact, for the first few years of his life, they couldn't afford their own home. Instead, baby Andy lived with relatives, and when his parents finally got their own place, it was so small that Andy actually slept in a dresser drawer as a baby. Despite these early struggles, Andy's childhood was filled with curiosity and creativity. He wasn't a naturally outgoing child. In fact, he was shy and quiet. But he had a deep love for music and stories, and he found comfort in listening to records and radio programs. He loved the sound of old-time gospel and country music, which would stick with him for the rest of his life. As he grew older, Andy's interest in performing started to shine through. In school, Andy wasn't the most athletic or popular kid, but he found his place through singing and acting. He sang in the church choir and often performed in school plays, where he started to realize that he loved being in front of an audience. One of the biggest turning points in his childhood was when he got his first musical instrument, a trombone. By the time he reached high school, Andy had gained more confidence and began performing in local theater productions and school events. In 1944, Andy graduated from Mount Airy High School. By this time, he had decided he wanted to pursue a career in the arts, though he wasn't exactly sure what that would look like. At first, he thought about becoming a minister. He had grown up in a religious household, and he admired the way preachers could hold people's attention with their words. But while he loved storytelling, he soon realized that his real passion wasn't in preaching, it was in performing. That same year, he enrolled at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where he studied music and drama. His big break came in 1953 when he recorded a comedy routine called What It Was Football. It was a hilarious take on a country boy experiencing his first football game, and it became a massive hit. The recording was played on radio stations nationwide, selling hundreds of thousands of copies. Suddenly, Andy Griffith wasn't just a small-town teacher. He was a rising comedy star. By the late 1950s, Andy Griffith was a well-known name, but he was about to land the role that would define his career. In 1960, he guest-starred in an episode of The Danny Thomas Show, playing a small-town sheriff named Andy Taylor. The character was such a hit that it led to a spin-off, The Andy Griffith Show. From Mayberry to Hollywood, Ron Howard's journey under Andy Griffith's guidance. When The Andy Griffith Show first aired in 1960, no one could have predicted that its young co-star Ron Howard would one day become one of Hollywood's most successful directors. At just 6 years old, Ron stepped into the role of Opie Taylor, the kind-hearted son of Sheriff Andy Taylor, played by Andy Griffith. While the show became a beloved classic, it also marked the beginning of a lifelong bond between the two actors. Andy was more than just a TV father to Ron. He was a real-life mentor, shaping his skills as an actor, storyteller, and eventually a director. At the age of 2, Ron made his first on-screen appearance in a small role in the film Frontier Woman, 1956. However, it was a guest role on The Danny Thomas Show in 1960 that changed everything. Producers were looking for a young actor to play Opie Taylor in the upcoming series The Andy Griffith Show. When Ron auditioned, something just clicked. Despite being so young, he delivers natural performances and holds his own in scenes with seasoned actors. More importantly, when he and Andy Griffith met, there was an instant connection. Their chemistry felt authentic, and it was clear that Ron was the perfect choice to play Andy Taylor's son. In October 1960, The Andy Griffith Show premiered, and Ron Howard officially became Opie Taylor. The show was an instant success, and audiences quickly fell in love with the father-son relationship at its heart. Although Ron had natural talent, working on a major television show at such a young age was a challenge. This is where Andy Griffith stepped in, not just as a co-star, but as a mentor who helped shape Ron's career. Andy had a deep respect for storytelling, comedy, and timing, and he made sure that Ron learned these lessons on set. Unlike some adult actors who might treat child actors as less important, Andy saw Ron as an equal, always taking the time to explain things and help him grow as an actor. One of Andy's biggest lessons to Ron was the importance of natural acting. Andy believed that performances should feel real and effortless. One of the most iconic images from The Andy Griffith Show is the opening credits where Andy and Opie walk to the fishing hole. The scene captures the heart of the show, but filming it wasn't as simple as it looked. In the original take, young Ron struggled to throw the rock into the water. He just couldn't get it to skip the way the director wanted. In the final version, an off-screen crew member actually threw the rock at the right moment to make it look perfect. But the warmth between Andy and Ron was 100% real. As Ron grew older, he became increasingly interested in what happened behind the camera. While most child actors focused only on their performances, Ron was fascinated by the directors, cameras, and storytelling techniques used to bring the show to life. With Andy's guidance always in the back of his mind, Ron went on to become an Oscar-winning director. He directed major films like Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, and The Da Vinci Code, earning a reputation as one of the most respected filmmakers in Hollywood. Even after achieving success, Ron never forgot his roots. He often spoke about how much Andy Griffith influenced him, not just in acting, but in how to treat people with kindness and professionalism. From Mayberry to New Beginnings, they're separate paths. When The Andy Griffith Show ended in 1968, it marked the end of an era. For nearly a decade, Andy Griffith and Ron Howard had formed one of television's most beloved father-son duos, creating a timeless bond on and off the screen. But as the cameras stopped rolling in Mayberry, both actors faced new opportunities and challenges. Andy had to transition from his easygoing small-town sheriff role into more serious acting, while Ron moved from being a child star to one of the most respected directors in Hollywood. Even as their careers took separate paths, they never lost touch, continuing to support and respect each other for the rest of their lives. For years, Andy Griffith had been known as the wise and gentle Sheriff Andy Taylor, but after The Andy Griffith Show, he struggled to find the right follow-up. After playing such an iconic role for 8 years, it was hard for audiences to see Andy as anyone else. He attempted to launch new TV shows, but many of them didn't last long. In 1970, he starred in The Headmaster, a show where he played a school principal, but it was canceled after 1 season. In 1971, he returned to a more familiar small-town setting with the new Andy Griffith Show, but it also failed to capture the same magic as Mayberry and was canceled after just a few episodes. Andy found his breakthrough in made-for-TV movies. In 1974, he shocked audiences with his performance in Pray for the Wildcats, playing a ruthless businessman, far from the kind and gentle Andy Taylor. In 1977, he starred in Washington Behind Closed Doors, a political drama that further showcased his serious acting chops. He even played villains like in Murder in Texas, 1981, proving that he was much more than just a friendly sheriff. These roles helped reshape his career, showing that he could handle complex and darker characters. In 1986, Andy Griffith landed the role that would define his second act, Ben Matlock, a brilliant yet folksy defense attorney in Matlock. The show was an instant hit, running for 9 seasons and making Andy a household name again. While Andy was transitioning into dramatic roles, Ron Howard was carving his own path, one that led him behind the camera. After The Andy Griffith Show, Ron continued acting, but he was eager to prove he could do more than play Opie Taylor. He took on guest roles in TV dramas like The Smith Family and Gunsmoke. In 1973, he landed a big role in George Lucas's American Graffiti, a coming-of-age film that became a surprise hit. A year later, he joined the cast of Happy Days, 1974-1984, as Richie Cunningham, making him a TV star once again. With Andy Griffith's early encouragement, Ron took his first steps into filmmaking. By the 1990s, Ron had established himself as one of the best directors in Hollywood. His films were not just successful, they were critically acclaimed. Apollo 13, 1995, a thrilling real-life space drama that earned 9 Oscar nominations. A Beautiful Mind, 2001, the film that won Ron Howard the Academy Award for Best Director. The Da Vinci Code, 2006, a worldwide blockbuster based on the best-selling novel. Ron Howard was no longer Opie. He was a respected filmmaker, shaping some of the most memorable movies of his time. In 1986, they reunited for the TV movie Return to Mayberry, a special where Andy reprised his role as Sheriff Taylor and Ron returned as a grown-up Opie. The film was a ratings success, proving that Mayberry still had a special place in fans' hearts. Even though The Andy Griffith Show ended more than 50 years ago, its impact has never faded. The warmth of Mayberry, the timeless father-son bond between Sheriff Andy Taylor and Opie, and the humor and life lessons still resonate with fans today. A big part of that enduring legacy comes from Ron Howard, who continues to honor his former co-star, mentor, and lifelong friend, Andy Griffith. When Andy Griffith passed away in 2012, Ron Howard was one of the first to honor him. He posted a heartfelt tribute saying, "His pursuit of excellence and the joy he took in creating served generations and shaped my life. I'm forever grateful." Andy Griffith wasn't just a great actor. He was a storyteller, a role model, and someone who helped shape Ron Howard's career in ways that went far beyond their time on TV. In interviews, public appearances, and social media, Ron has never stopped expressing his gratitude for Andy's guidance and friendship. Ron Howard and Cheryl Alley, a love story that stood the test of time. Ron met Cheryl when they were teenagers in high school. It was a classic case of young love, but unlike most teenage romances, theirs actually lasted. They went on their first date on November 1st, 1970, when Ron was just 16 years old. By the time Ron Howard became a household name playing Richie Cunningham on Happy Days, he and Cheryl were already inseparable. He was one of the biggest young TV stars of the 1970s, but he never let fame get in the way of his love for Cheryl. Instead of getting caught up in the Hollywood lifestyle, he stayed grounded, largely thanks to Cheryl's presence in his life. The two got married on June 7, 1975, and they didn't waste any time building a life together. Over the years, they had 4 children: Bryce Dallas Howard, who followed in her father's footsteps and became an actress and filmmaker, twins Jocelyn and Paige, and their youngest son, Reed. One of the secrets to their lasting marriage is how well they communicate. Ron has often said that they simply get along, which sounds simple but is actually rare. In Hollywood, where relationships often crumble under pressure, Ron and Cheryl have kept things solid by prioritizing their marriage over everything else. He even said in one interview, "People say, 'How'd you do it?' There's no technique," he said. "There's no tactic. Other than communication is really important. You have to learn to communicate and have difficult conversations in constructive ways. Beyond that, there's an element of luck because people either grow together or they don't, and I don't think you can force that." Cheryl, who is a writer, has largely stayed out of the spotlight, but she has been Ron's biggest supporter throughout his career. Whether he was acting in American Graffiti, directing Apollo 13, or winning an Oscar for A Beautiful Mind, she was always there behind the scenes, cheering him on. In return, Ron has never shied away from crediting her for keeping him balanced and focused. After more than 5 decades together, Ron and Cheryl's love is still going strong. They often talk about how they've never stopped dating each other, which seems to be one of their biggest secrets to success. Even after all these years, Ron still posts sweet tributes to Cheryl on social media, sharing photos and memories of their journey together. Andy Griffith's final years, health struggles, and his quiet farewell. Andy Griffith, the legendary actor known for bringing warmth, wisdom, and humor to millions, lived a long and fulfilling life. From his time as Sheriff Andy Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show to his later success as Matlock, he remained a beloved figure in American entertainment. But like all great stars, his time eventually came to an end. While Andy Griffith always seemed full of energy on screen, behind the scenes he battled various health problems, especially as he grew older. One of the biggest health scares in Griffith's life came in 1983, when he was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome. This rare disorder affects the nervous system, causing muscle weakness and even paralysis in severe cases. For months, Griffith had trouble walking and performing simple tasks, but with physical therapy and determination, he made a remarkable recovery. Even though he never fully regained his former strength, he didn't let it stop him. Just a few years later, he was back on television, starring in Matlock, one of the biggest roles of his career. By the late 1990s, Griffith's health started declining again. In 2000, at the age of 74, he had to undergo quadruple bypass surgery. This major procedure was necessary due to blockages in his heart, a common issue for many older adults. Despite the seriousness of the operation, Griffith recovered well and even made a return to acting in the following years. However, his health continued to decline gradually, and he began stepping away from public life. As he moved into his 80s, Griffith became more reclusive, choosing to spend most of his time at his home on Roanoke Island, North Carolina. His last major public appearance came in 2004 when he attended the unveiling of a statue of Sheriff Andy Taylor and Opie in Mount Airy, North Carolina, the town that inspired Mayberry. On the morning of July 3, 2012, Andy Griffith passed away at his home at the age of 86. The cause of death was reported as a heart attack, though his declining health had been evident for some time. Just 4 hours after his death, Griffith was buried in a family cemetery on his Roanoke Island property. Ron Howard finally breaks silence on Andy Griffith. Ron Howard has finally broken his silence on the man who shaped so much of his early life, Andy Griffith. For years, Howard has spoken warmly about his time on The Andy Griffith Show, but now he's sharing even deeper insights into the kindness, playfulness, and dedication that made Griffith such a special person in his life. From the time Ron Howard was just 6 years old playing Opie Taylor, Andy Griffith became a mentor, a friend, and a role model. Howard recalls that working with Griffith wasn't like working at all. It felt like being part of a family. Andy made sure that the set was filled with laughter and warmth, making it a joy to come to work every day. His kindness wasn't just for show. It was something he lived by, and it made a lasting impression on young Ron. One of the things Howard remembers most about Griffith was his playful nature. Despite being the lead star of the show, Griffith never took himself too seriously. He loved to joke around between takes, often playing pranks or making up silly songs to keep the mood light. Howard recalls how Griffith would suddenly tell a ridiculous joke just to make everyone laugh. He wanted the set to feel like a happy, safe place, not a stressful work environment, and it worked. Because of Griffith's lighthearted approach, the show maintained a warm, genuine atmosphere that fans could feel through the screen. But it wasn't all just fun and games. Andy Griffith was deeply dedicated to his craft. He took storytelling seriously and wanted every scene to feel real and heartfelt. Ron Howard says that watching Griffith work taught him some of the most valuable lessons of his career. Andy had a way of making even the simplest moments powerful. Whether it was a heartfelt talk between Andy and Opie or a comedic scene in the barbershop, Griffith made sure that every performance was honest and true to life. Howard especially admired Griffith's ability to balance humor with sincerity. He never wanted The Andy Griffith Show to be just another sitcom with predictable punchlines. Instead, he made sure that each episode carried real emotion, whether it was about family, friendship, or doing the right thing. That dedication to meaningful storytelling stuck with Ron Howard and helped shape his approach to filmmaking later in life. Even after The Andy Griffith Show ended, the bond between Howard and Griffith remained strong. They kept in touch over the years, and Howard always felt grateful for the influence Griffith had on him. When Howard moved from acting to directing, he carried with him the lessons he had learned from Griffith about leadership, kindness, and staying true to the heart of a story. Howard has often spoken about how much he appreciated Griffith's generosity, especially toward younger actors. Griffith took the time to guide him, never talking down to him but instead treating him like an equal. He taught him about timing, delivery, and the importance of listening, not just as an actor, but as a person. Those lessons didn't just help Howard in his career. They shaped the way he interacts with others in his own life. Now, decades later, Ron Howard still carries Andy Griffith's wisdom with him. As one of Hollywood's most respected directors, he credits much of his success to the foundation Griffith helped build. Ron Howard has finally spoken about just how much Andy Griffith meant to him, and it's clear that the impact was profound. Griffith wasn't just a TV icon. He was a mentor, a friend, and a guiding force in Howard's life. His kindness, playfulness, and dedication to his craft left an unforgettable mark, not just on Howard, but on everyone who had the privilege of working with him. And thanks to Howard's own work, that spirit continues to live on in every story he tells.